All right, today is October 25, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public recorded and posted on YouTube. Today on the agenda, we're going to go over the planning spreadsheet to get an update on the items that we're working on as a SIG for the 1.13 release. If there are any PRs that need attention or design reviews, please feel free to add them to the agenda. It's linked in the calendar invite, and if there's anything else you want to discuss, feel free to add it to the agenda and we'll get to it at the end. So let's jump into the planning spreadsheet and get a status update from folks. So first up, we have CSI in-tree block volume support moving to beta. Any updates on this, Vlad? Looks like Vlad is not on the call, so we'll skip over that and get an update from him next time. We're going to skip over the CSI drivers and get an update at the end of the quarter on those. Next up is moving the common CSI mount library, or moving the mount library to an external repo. This is the mount library that exists in the core of Kubernetes today. We want to be able to reuse it for CSI drivers. Travis is helping drive this work. Any updates on this, Travis?
Yes, I am working on it again right now. And Michelle actually reached out to me on Tuesday. What's that?
Sorry, go ahead. I think I might have had everyone on mute, so if you were talking, I might not have heard you.
Oh, nice. Okay. I was going to say, Michelle reached out to me and she pointed out that not only is SIG Storage interested in this, but also SIG Cloud Provider now. So I'm actually working on it today and tomorrow. So it's actually my number one priority at this point because I have the bandwidth to work on it. So
awesome.
Yep.
We might want to sort out if this library should live in the staging directory of Kubernetes, or this library. I think there's some weirdness about if Kubernetes needs to depend on external code that will also be consumed as a library by other external code. It should be part of staging.
Yes, I think the plan here is we are going to refactor the mount library, split out all the Kubernetes stuff with the just generic mounting tools, and then move the mounting utilities to staging.
Perfect. Okay, and then that gets published out to a new repo, and then the CSI drivers can pull it from there.
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you for the update there. That looks like it's on track. Next up is the pluggable end-to-end test framework that Patrick has been driving. Is Patrick on the line by any chance? I know he is Germany time, so he might not be able to make it.
So I know there was a PR submitted, and Methusen's actually been reviewing that. Okay. So this should be in good shape. We just need to review it, and then Methusen's in the process, and then we'll +1 it and have it merged.
Awesome. Sounds good to me. Next up, we have Kubernetes conformance. Plan for this quarter was to basically write tests, establish process, and document things. Any updates on this?
There has not been progress made on this, but I have been in touch with Srinivas to coordinate the work.
Okay. Should we continue to track it for this quarter, or?
I think we can still track it. It's just not as high priority, I think.
Okay, let's go ahead and drop the priority on that. Next up is provisioning capacity reporting for generic topology. Are we still following up on that this quarter?
Yeah, so there's a issue open to discuss potential designs that we can do.
Okay. And the deliverable here is a design, so that seems like it's on track. Next up is for the CSI external containers to move leader election to a lease object. I know Chang made a change to the external provisioner and external attacher to make leader election optional because it currently requires additional RBAC permissions to the endpoint object, which not everybody wants to hand out. So this is something we're looking forward to. Any updates on this, Matt?
No, haven't started, but I know the object exists in the API now.
Cool. Any plans on working on it anytime soon, or?
Yeah, it's still on track to get done this quarter.
Okay, cool. Next up is subpath expansion redo. So last we left off, there was a proposal for a redesign that needed to be reviewed. Any updates on that?
Yeah, that's under my plate currently to review the proposal.
Okay. Let's see if we can get Jing to pick that up, because I know you're also helping a lot with the CSI stuff. Next up, we have CSI driver. We're going to skip over that. Then we've got the CSI iSCSI common library. So looks like the initial PRs were created to populate that repo. And there were some discussions about what the features should be and where this library should go. Any updates on that, John, Ben?
Yeah, so I did a little update to that initial pull. So I think the idea should be first merge it as a Golang library that people can consume. And then from there, we can figure out what we want to do as far as an actual service and containerizing it. So if we could do step one, and then we can follow up with other changes. We've tested it now. Matt Smith from Daterra has been doing a bunch of work on this as well, with running it in containers as iSCSID running in the container, as well as the initial model that I did with running it a plugin in using the node iSCSID. Both seem to work. They each have their drawbacks, but they both seem to work. So we could probably even offer both models.
Nice.
So.
All right. So that sounds pretty promising. Who do we want to wait on for merge?
I was actually, I put it on the agenda to ask if you guys are cool. I'm just going to merge it at this point because it's been sitting there fairly idle for quite a while. If Matt has a chance to run through it with his multipath test again, that would be great. And then after that, we can merge it, and then we can start building on it.
Okay, that seems reasonable to me. If anybody on the call has any objections, please go take a look at the PR and ping John or post it on the PR. Otherwise, we'll proceed with getting that merged and getting an initial revision out.
Yeah, I'm fine with merging it as well.
Cool. And like John said, once that's merged, this is the library component. There's a separate repo which has a actual generic iSCSI driver that will consume this library. Both of those are going to live in independent repos. The common library can be consumed by other folks who are writing custom iSCSI, CSI drivers. The generic iSCSI driver will just be kind of the replacement for the in-tree iSCSI driver that we already have. So excellent work there. Thank you for the update. Cool. Next, we have the CSI spec changes that Hemant has been championing in around dynamic max capacity provisioning. We had the community meeting to discuss this last week. Any updates, Hemant?
Nothing, no updates yet. But I'll open a formal issue today on the CSI repo.
What issue? This is waiting for a PR merge right now, right?
No. This is not for expansion. This is
Oh,
capacity.
got it. Okay. Right. Okay. Cool.
I'll open a PR today for this thing.
Okay. And I guess the next one is the one that I was thinking about, which is adding support from volume expansion.
Yeah, I have opened a, I have pushed a change that kind of like middle ground, and it addresses James' comments. I don't know if you'll be happy with it, but yeah, that's where we are at. But yep.
Okay.
So
if it continues to languish, maybe let's get you into a meeting and
yeah.
the fewer cooks in the, let's try to push this through. I think it's been open for a very long time now.
And it's just a wording thing. There's no API, this thing. So
yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you for all your work on that. Moving on, we're going to skip over the drivers. Hopefully there's good progress on that this quarter. We'll get an update at the end of the quarter. Next.
One quick note on the Azure.
Sure.
So I spoke to Andy Zhang from Azure, and they say they won't be able to get to it in 1.13, so most likely in 1.14.
Okay. That is disappointing, but that's okay. One thing that this will affect is the CSI migration plan. So can you let David Zhu know about this so that he can...
I did already. We spoke about
perfect.
that. So I think the plan there is to go with AWS and GCP for the time being.
Okay.
Not Azure for now. For 1.13 at least, yeah.
And can you communicate to the Azure folks the kind of reason why this is important to get done soon? The whole into tree migration. Okay, thank you. And I guess since I have you, can you give an update on the tree migration as well?
Right. So for that, we decided to, the size of the changes are pretty big. And I think David looked at possibly putting all of them in a feature branch, but that seemed to have some problems. So basically the idea now is to work on a forked branch that he has and basically put all the entry changes in the fork in the private fork that David has. And over there, the attached detached changes are in, at least the alpha version of it. And the next set of changes will be the external provisioner changes, which I have prototyped. So I'll have a PR open for that. And the second aspect of this is the migration library. And over there, work has already begun for the AWS and the GCP driver translations.
Awesome. You guys are doing a lot of great work there. Cool. Thank you. So that looks like it's solidly on track for alpha. That's a lot of work, but it looks like it's on track. Next up is the CSI external provisioner, moving topology support for the CSI external provisioner from alpha to beta. Deep, I know you're working on that.
Yes, so there were two items. The first one is more or less done. It's about spreading the stateful sets appropriately, as is done in the entry code. So that's waiting for approval from Jan or anyone else in the brewers. And the second item there is getting an external webhook set up for the CSI node info, and that I'll have shortly.
Awesome. Okay, next up, CSI driver for Fiber Channel. We're going to skip over that. A common library for Fiber Channel Methusin. So last we left off, PR needed to be created against the new repo. Any updates on that? Maybe Methusin is not on the line. Brad, would you be able to give an update?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have a status on this.
Okay.
I've actually been working with him on that. He's got a number of PRs back in my repo for the common version of this that we started on. He and I were going to get together this week and go through helping him out getting an initial commit up to the CSI repo. So I'll check with him. He is working on it. He is making progress. So.
Awesome, cool. Thanks for the update, John. So that sounds promising. I'll go ahead and mark that as started. Next up is testing for these external libraries and external drivers, or for the entry drivers. Any updates on that?
Yeah, so I was supposed to schedule a call last week, but I had PTO, so I moved it to this week, and I believe Ben is out on this week at the time I had scheduled, so it looks like we're going to probably have it punted to another week.
All right, cool, no worries. Michelle's doing some really cool work with the GCE CSI driver. That might be worth looking at. If you look at the GCE entry driver, there is a issue open for coming up with a test plan, and she has a very comprehensive plan for test the driver.
And I think I might start weekly calls on this because I know Methusen's chugging away at it. We have Patrick's stuff, and then Michelle. There's just a bunch of things that could be coming together on this. So I will start like a weekly call on this.
Okay, that could be useful. All right, moving along, we've got flex volume resizing support. The PR needed to be reviewed. Any updates on that?
Sure, Aniket here. So the first of the approvals is in.
Nice.
So Chakri did that. Thanks, Chakri. And Hemant just reached out to me. I think, Hemant, you said you had a small comment about the test, one of the tests, but the rest of it looks good. So I'm hoping I can just do that today and hopefully be ready.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for that update.
Sure.
Excuse me. Next up is online volume expansion, moving that feature to beta. This is for the core Kubernetes. Last up, the PR was ready, just needed to be rebased and reviewed. Any updates on that?
I don't know.
I think Matthew is working on it, and the PR is still, open. He's writing some tests for it actually to ensure that we cover the failure scenarios. But yeah, we're on track.
We had one issue brought up by Jordan that we were going to address.
Not for this one. No, that's for block storage, Brad.
Oh, is this not block storage? I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Sounds like the PR is there. There's some tests being added and just needs to be finished up. Next up is node shutdown, node failure handling. Are any of the folks helping drive this on able to give an update?
I think this has to be like brought back to the node team and for upward discussion actually, but we don't have any update,
I think that's fair. What we might want to do is create a cross SIG feature request for next quarter to put this on their agenda to help drive. I was talking to Jing a lot about this week, and Jing suggested that one of the strategies that seems to be working, at least on the GCP side, is I think it ends up deleting the node object or deleting the actual node, which is why GKE doesn't hit a lot of these issues, and seeing what we can do to handle this better in other cases. So let's, if we can come up with a proposal that we have for node, we can take that to them in the next quarter and see if they can help us with this. Do you want to change this to design for this quarter? Sorry, where was I?
I think. 25th, about 20. I think.
Did somebody modify the doc?
Some filter got applied.
Okay, 24, 25, 26. Okay, I'll look at this after after the meeting and take a look at the version history and see if somebody made an edit. But it looks like we got that item dropped somehow. But anyway, we'll follow up with that offline. Next item we have is Topology to GA. Michelle has been helping drive this with Jan. It looked like there were only some tests to add. Is that still the case, Michelle?
Yeah, we have, the tests are basically the 1 out of 2 last remaining things for GA.
Nice. Okay. Seems like it's on track. Next up is revisit the design for volume attach limits. There was concerns raised about the existing design and potentially wanting something more generic. I think the last item here was to bring it up with SIG scheduling for collaboration.
This has to, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this has to be, I think, this has to be a design story, because in the best case, it already works as it exists, but we want to do better. So.
Okay. Do we want to punt it for this quarter and revisit it next quarter?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. Michelle, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'll go ahead and move that out. Oh, milestone wasn't assigned, so. Continuing work on snapshots. So Xing's been giving regular updates in the CSI meeting. Xing, do you want to give an update here? Maybe Xing is not on the line. Jing, would you be on? Are you on the line? Okay, looks like neither of them are, but there are a handful of items that they're tackling for this quarter, including adding deletion protection, having a new reclaim policy similar to the reclaim policy that we have on PVPVC, adding topology support into CSI for snapshots, and creating a design for application consistent snapshots. And so far, all of those items seem to be on track. If you're interested in any of that work, please sync up with Jing and Xing, and they can point you to the right places. We're going to keep this feature in alpha. We're just going to continue to polish it and add functionality. So everything there seems on track. Next up is automated end-to-end testing of CSI sidecar containers before release, both major and minor. So Patrick is working on this as well. I think some of the work that Michelle is doing for the GCPD CSI driver is actually going to end up helping us a lot here as well. Now for the CSI items, moving to 1.0. This is on track. There are a handful of issues that are currently open for 1.0. If you go to the container storage interface spec repo, you can look at the 1.0 milestone to see what those issues are. If you have any major concerns with a 1.0 spec, now is the time to get those raised. Either raise them in this forum or at the CSI community meeting. Once the spec goes to 1.0, making backwards compatibility breaking changes will be much more difficult, if not impossible. So please, if there are changes that you want to make before that, get them in soon. We want to get this done by November 10 to 15 is what I'm aiming for a 1.0 cut of CSI, so the deadline's approaching fast. Next up is moving the CSI persistent volume and volume attachment objects to GA. Jan, do you want to give an update here? We were hoping to be a very simple switch, but it has to be a considerable amount of work.
We had a long conversation with Jordan about adding inline volumes later, And if the design is V1, if we are going to add new features there that are going to break backwards compatibility. But as far as I understood the conversation, we could move to 1.0 in this quarter and do the refactoring and all the changes necessary in inline volumes.
Yeah, so I think based on our meetings with Jordan, that work is now unblocked. So we can go ahead and proceed with this, but the challenge is that there is a considerable amount of additional logic that needs to go into the inline CSI support PR to support this in a backwards compatible manner. So that means that while this is unblocked, we have more work on the inline volume side. Next item is kubelet device registration mechanism and implementing the unregistration call for CSI. Vlad has been leading the work or driving this task with some folks from the device plugin team. Vlad, are you on the call by any chance?
Yeah, I was able to join. Yeah, so this is work in progress. I talked to Renaud, who is the lead on the PR for the device plugin, and he was able to update the list of tasks that need to happen for this to go to GA. It looks like most of the tasks have to do with basically ways to show that the code is ready, because it won't have any backward compatibility issues. So I'm helping him with that, and then I think there's one PR where he actually has to do code. So I'll be following up with him on that.
Awesome. Great work. Let's keep in mind the approaching deadline. November 15th is code freeze, but it sounds like everything is on track here. So thank you for all your work there. Next up is the CRD installation mechanism. I have been going around to other SIGs to try to get this picked up. I went to API Machinery. They said that they were not responsible for the installation of objects, and that was the responsibility of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. I went to SIG Cluster Lifecycle, and thankfully they have agreed to pick up this work, but not for this quarter. For the time being, in order to unblock SIG storage, what we're doing is using the existing add-on manager as a mechanism to install the CRDs that CSI requires. I have a PR out for that. That's currently a work in progress. So short-term workaround for SIG storage is add-on manager, and long-term will be driven by, let's go. But that means we should be unblocked on this fairly soon. Next up is moving RBAC role definitions from Kubernetes to external repos. Patrick is helping with this, and we'll get an update from him at some point in the future. Moving the CSI driver and CSI node objects from alpha to beta was blocked on CRD installation. Any other status update there, Jan?
No, I haven't even started, but I hope this is going to be easier, right?
It should be, unless we run into the same set of upgrade, downgrade issues that Jordan pointed out. Other than that, probably should be fairly simple.
Okay.
Next up is implementing CSI pod inline volume support. This is work that Vlad has also been championing. So as mentioned, there is now additional work that we're going to do here to for backwards compatibility. We're hoping that Jordan can actually help with some of that work. Go ahead, Vlad.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question. It sounded like during the last meeting, there was something he was going to take on, but from the last comment from Jan, I want to make sure I understand. So will the inline volume code has to include the backward compatible stuff in order for it to go to alpha, or is it in order for CSI as a whole to go GA? That's what I'm still
My
trying to
understanding is it's only required for inline to go to alpha. So whenever we introduce it, we need to ensure that this additional validation is in there.
Okay.
But double check two things with Jordan. One is that, and the second is if he would be willing to help us with that code since he understands it better than anyone else.
Okay. I'll follow up with him to figure out exactly what we need based on that document.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Pvc Namespace Transferring. We were targeting alpha. This was a feature that's required for cloning. Aaron or John, do either of you have updates for this?
Yeah, so I'm finishing up a POC that we can use to kind of throw darts at for the design doc.
Okay.
So I would like to have that finished hopefully this week here in the next by today or tomorrow, and then probably request a meeting with folks that are interested starting up next week.
Do we want to change the deliverable here from alpha to design for this quarter?
I don't think we have a choice, do we? We need to do. Does this have a feature for it?
It does not have a feature for it. So yeah, that is also
makes it easy.
Good point. Okay, I think that's okay. We'll get a better understanding of what we want, and hopefully the proof of concept means that it'll be fairly easy to implement next quarter then.
Cool.
Next up is data population. Supporting other data sources like cloning. This honestly is one of the things that I'm really, really excited about looking forward. Also a design that we're hoping to deliver this quarter. Any progress on this, John?
Not really. What we might want to discuss is if you want to prioritize that one before the transfer, or if we as a group want to prioritize it.
I personally would. I'm not sure what the group thinks. Either way, for both of these features, since they're designed, they're not blockers for code freeze. I'd prioritize other features until code freeze, and then we can pick this up after code freeze and figure out which one we should focus on.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look today and think about if there's a way to actually still do them in parallel, or if maybe I want to prioritize that one.
Okay. All right, next up is ability to set UID on volumes in GID. I completely forgot what this task was about. Keep track of existing thread, node namespace feature may be impacted. There's a link here. Hemant, do you want to jog my memory what this was about?
Yeah, so there's a proposal to basically let users specify UID. So far, we have only been using FS group to change the permissions, but there's a change to allow users to specify UID, so the permissions could be changed to match both UID and FS group. So we need to process that and make that change. I haven't started on it, but I'm planning to do this for 3.12. Oh, sorry, 1.13.
Man, this is a blast from the past. Okay. Sounds good. We'll keep it there, and then we'll get an update on it next time.
Okay.
CSI sidecar containers splitting up driver registrar into multiple repos. Is Luis on the line by any chance? Okay, so I believe this work hasn't begun yet. Hopefully we can get started on this soon. Right now there are two sets of functionality that are kind of stuffed into driver registrar that are orthogonal, and realistically we need to split the driver registrar into two separate containers and two separate repos. One is node driver registrar, one is cluster driver registrar. And Luis will be driving this work. Hopefully he can get started on this soon. Next up is improving dependency injection for volume plugins. Do we have an owner for this?
Dependency injection?
Yeah, because this was like low priority. I don't think we assigned anybody last
Okay.
time. It's probably at this point, it looks like it's probably going to get punted.
Okay. And for the sake of education, can you give a quick rundown of what this task is?
Just that looking at the code base in the past, we've had some issues related to how different dependencies are injected into volume plugins. For example, like currently most of the dependencies are coming through the volume host interface, which means every single plugin has to take advantage of, it has access to basically all the dependencies.
Yes.
So in
This
reality,
is mostly around cleaning up the volume hosts stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's an important task that we've been putting off for a very long time. Okay. If anyone's interested in doing a refactor of volume host and cleaning that code out, holler, and you can pick this item up. If not, we're going to move it to next quarter. Next up is supporting mount options in CSI external provisioner.
This one was merged this week.
Yay. Awesome. All right, thank you. If my laptop responds. All right, and finally, allow mount options for CSI volume in Kubelet. Any updates?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for reviews on this one.
Okay. Do you have somebody in mind who would be good to review this?
Well, Michelle looked at it once, and I've asked her to look again.
Okay. So Michelle's pretty slammed. I don't know if Michelle, this is on your radar to review anytime soon.
Oh yeah. I was totally gonna do it yesterday, and I totally forgot. So I'm gonna do it again today. But yeah, just keep on pinging me if I forget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And if we can find other reviewers, that would be great too. I know Michelle's slammed with a lot of work. She's helping lead a lot of the work for CSI as well as a lot of other features. So
This is a small one. Shouldn't be too hard.
Okay, that's great then. That's all that I have for status updates. Reminders that feature freeze was 2 days ago. So if you don't have a feature committed as a feature issue, then technically we cannot get it into this release. And code freeze for the items that we are committed to is November 15th. And code slush is probably about a week before that. So try and get your features in as soon as possible. We're already at October 25, so it's getting very tight. Next up, we have PRs that need attention. John added the iSCSI lib. So again, the comment here is the initial commit for the CSI iSCSI library seems to be ready to go. If there are no objections, then John will go ahead and merge this. Please take a look at it if you're interested at all. If you have objections that are more along the lines of feature level things that we should do instead of blocking the initial commit, let's do follow-up PRs to address those. The kind of things that should block this PR are things like, I think inherently this is structured incorrectly or is functionally incorrect, things like that. So please follow up on that PR. Anything else you want to add on that, John?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. Next up is KubeCon SIG Storage events. There is a SIG intro session that is currently planned. As part of that session, at the end of the session, we'll end up doing a panel discussion. So some of you will probably be asked to participate in that. Are there other events that folks are aware of? There is a containers native storage day the day before the conference on Monday, December 9th. Brad, do you want to add anything else on that?
So I think there's a call for presenters on that. I want to say it's booked up, but we've been trying to find ways to allow others to get in. I don't want to necessarily promote the OpenShift Commons, but there's an OpenShift event also on Monday. The other question was, did we want to have a SIG storage face-to-face or anything along those lines during this time?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it out. So I'm still trying to figure that out over the next, hopefully I'll know by the next meeting. And I don't want to block it on that. If you guys feel like it might be useful, feel free to go for it. If nothing else, we could do a small impromptu meeting or like a dinner or something.
Okay.
If anyone wants to take the lead on that, feel free. Brad, maybe?
Yep, sure.
Cool.
I'll link an agenda to this.
Perfect.
Agenda document.
Any other events folks are aware of related to SIG storage or storage in general? I know that the CNCF storage work group is going to have 2 sessions. They're planning on presenting a white paper that lays out the landscape, cloud native storage landscape. This group was previously a little bit controversial when they tried to do this last year because the paper was trying to define what is and is not cloud storage and potentially leaving folks out, which resulted in a lot of controversy. The new version of the landscape paper seems to be much more not opinionated in that regard. It's more about here are the different types of storage technologies. One of the explicit non-goals for it is trying to define what is and is not cloud native and doing any sort of recommendation for storage. So I don't anticipate as much controversy this time around. For folks that are interested, feel free to attend that. KubeCon storage talks, I know there's a handful of talks. I know Michelle's going to be giving one. David Zhu is going to be giving one. And I know there's a handful of others in this SIG that are. If you are, feel free to add your talk here as a heads up to others.
Don't you have one too, Saad?
I've got the SIG storage intro session. If I'm not able to attend, I'm going to have to get you to pick that up.
Okay.
So I'll let you know in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Anything else folks want to talk about regarding KubeCon or anything else? All right, and if you have a talk, please go ahead and add it to the doc here, and that's it. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks. Approaching code freeze fast, so please get your PRs in early, make time for code reviews, and let's finish off this year strong. Thank you very much, and see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Saad.
Thank you.
Thank you.